All right, we are live and welcome everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 103. We'll do a quick recap of last week, talk about my bets, how we did, and then we'll jump right into the card because we've got quite a few fights to talk about. We got 12 fights, I think, and a lot of things to mention, a lot of things to discuss. Make sure you guys are talking to me in the live chat. It's always way more fun that way. And make sure you're liking the video, sharing it, commenting. It really helps a lot with the algorithm and all that good stuff. So make sure you do that if you like my content, or if you tailed me with the Cutelaba sub round 1 and that helped your pockets out, help me out. Make sure you're liking, sharing the videos. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So we'll do a quick recap of last week and then I'll pull up the fights and we'll get started. So let me pull up my Bet MMA. All right. So we profited 3.75 units. I will take it. We did well with the money lines. Cashed Anthony Hernandez. I laid the chalk there, minus 260 to win 1 unit. I played Cutelaba plus 155 for a unit. That cashed. Looked great there. Nick Klein for 0.25 units at plus 700. I didn't expect him to win, and he honestly did better than I expected him to do. So I'll take it, and I'm going to lose a lot of money on that guy. I like Nick Klein for some reason. I don't know what it is. I like it. Ricky Simone cashed at plus 240, half a unit there. I wasn't super confident in him, and I definitely didn't expect him to get a knockout. Eric McConical plus 270. I had a unit on him there. I just feel bad for McConical, honestly. People are going to call him a bum now and say he doesn't belong, and I just think he was, like, not scared, but, like, just nervous. Like, he had this giant dude in front of him. He was making his UFC debut on short notice. Like, that can get to a guy, even a fighter. So I hope Eric gets another chance at least. And then we had the Song Silva parlay that originally had Curtis Blades on it, but that fight fell off the card. So I was left with those two. That was a unit to win 0.8. Then I had Cerquera sub at plus 2,000, just 0.1 unit. I didn't want to put too much on it because I did not think he was really going to win. I didn't really understand all the desire to bet Cerquera, knowing that we didn't know anything. And it turned out the dude really has no defense, and he doesn't know what to do when he's turtled up and somebody's throwing shots at him. So I'm glad I kept it to just the sub prop at plus 2,000. Didn't lose much there. Had Matsumoto KO at plus 1,400 for a quarter unit. That never really came quite close. Good fight, though. Fun fight. And a good test for Matsumoto. And honestly, if he can do that on short notice against a guy like Rob Font, that kid's definitely got a future. And good for Rob Font for getting that dub. They should do Font Cejudo next. And then Cutelaba sub round 1 plus 2,000, cashed that. Only 0.1 units. I didn't go too hard on it because it was plus 2,000 and I already had the money line. But the read was correct, which I'm happy about. Pretty much what I was thinking was there's going to be a grappling edge here. The only thing we know about Ibo Aslan's counter grappling is that he can defend against Turkali, which doesn't say much. So I felt like Cutelaba is a better wrestler, a better grappler than Turkali. I thought he could take him down. I thought he would because Cutelaba normally does go for takedowns, especially early, and that's when he does them the best. And they were going to be dry in the first. So I figured if a sub's going to happen, I think it's going to happen in the first round. And I thought plus 2,000 was a ridiculous price for it. So I'm glad that pulled through. And then I made a pretty bad mistake. I played the Vanderford Veretennikov over 2.5 to win 1 unit. And someone pointed out on my Twitter, they're like, why did you do that? You were confident in Vanderford. And they're right. They're 100% right. What I did was I missed the plus money on Vanderford. I said, okay, screw it. I'll just play the over instead because I think that's how he wins anyways, and I'll be covered if Veretennikov gets the win. But ultimately, what happened, Vanderford ended up having even more of an edge than I expected him to, and ended up getting the finish. And my read was right, but I made the wrong bet. So that's a lesson learned, and that's it. That was UFC Seattle. Profited, like I said, 3.75 units. I will take it, and hopefully we can keep it going this week. I've already got 3 bets. They're all underdogs, and they're all moderately sized underdogs. So let's see how that works out. Let me pull up the fights, and then we can jump right in. And I'll catch up with the chat, too. I know we got some people in the chat over there. Definitely not ignoring you guys. Like I said, if you're watching, make sure you hop in the chat. Makes it a lot more fun. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. If you think I'm being stupid, let me know. That always helps. All right. Let me play with this real quick. All right. Let's rumble. First up, we got Michael in the chat. What's up, Michael? Thank you for tuning in. Michael B. Gamblin. Hall of Fame status for Couch with that round one. I mean, with the amount of round props that I've lost money on, I'm just glad to get a win in. JB, my guy, saying he should have tailed for more. Well, I probably should have played it for more, but I'm a little bit of a chicken sometimes. Champ Bets, what's up, Champ? Thanks for tuning in, brother. Always good to see you. MMA Clips, noticing the mustache, telling me to grow a beard. I can't grow a beard. I try. It doesn't fill in enough here. I have to, like, it's going to probably take me another 10 years to get a good beard. And I was honestly going to shave completely. I never leave a mustache, but my fiance wanted me to leave the mustache. So here we are. I've got a mustache now. But all right, let's jump right into the card. First fight of the night, we've got Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. Johnson 17-6-0. He's 34 years old, 5'9" with the 70-inch reach. Temirov 18-2-0. He's 28, so he's going to be 6 years younger. He's going to be 4 inches shorter, 5 inches shorter, and he's given up 7 inches in reach. So before I hop into like the breakdown, I just want to say everybody's like posting about Johnson's t-shirt, the Skullet Gang t-shirt, and I wanted to buy one, and I went to go check it out, and they're sold out. So Charles Johnson, if you see this or if anybody talks to the guy, tell him to stock up because I'd like to buy a shirt. Also, I kind of want to buy one of them headbands with the Skullet on it. It's pretty funny. But all right. Didn't know Tom Selleck was in it. Glad you like the mustache. Okay. So for this fight, it's kind of tricky for me because I just still don't really know how good Temirov is. I still don't really know what his cardio looks like. He had a fight that went to decision. He has had like 3 or 4, but the only one that I had tape on, or the more recent one, was 5 fights ago, I believe. And I think it was 2022, something like that, or 2021. And he went 3 rounds with this guy. Don't remember his name. Relatively experienced fella. And he looked good in the first, like he always does. He looked solid in the second. Didn't look gassed, but he did slow down. He for sure slowed down. And then in the third round, he really did slow down. Now, that was like 3 years ago, a little bit more than that. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. And that was 5 fights ago. And he's only 28 years old. So it's entirely possible that he has a full gas tank, that he can go a whole 15 minutes, that he does have good cardio. I don't know. And for the same reason I couldn't get behind Cerquera, big plus money against Modestus, I can't really get behind Temirov here at -110 when I just have a lot of questions still. I do think he's a good striker. I think he's got a ton of power. I think he is live to knock out Charles Johnson, even though Charles has never been knocked out. I do think he can do it. He's a very, very hard hitter. He does. That was good. That was really good. It's an eyebrow joke. I like it. Good stuff, Henry. That was a lot more creative than some of the ones I get. Recently, I got one about them being in different area codes, which I like that one too. But anyways, so he has a lot of power, Temirov, and he's a decent striker. He's pretty good, especially when he can actually crash the pocket. But that's another thing, right? He's so small. He's 5'4", 63-inch reach. Kind of could be an atom weight if they had such a division, or a straw weight. And because of that, he has to crash the pocket. He can't strike at range. So he has to always crash the pocket, get up real close, and then throw his big hooks. And it's almost always big hooks. You never see him throwing straight punches, really. You never see him throwing something like a 1-2. It's almost all hooks, an occasional jab, and a few kicks. So it's like, I don't really know how great he is yet. I don't really know how he's going to be against rangier opponents. And a guy like Charles Johnson, he's a rangy guy. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. He's going to be 4 inches taller and 5 inches taller. And I just think, and he is a guy who can use that range. He is a guy who will use that jab. He is a guy who can use that teep kick. And that teep kick could be a really good weapon here against Temirov, who has questionable cardio and functions purely off of explosive movements. A guy like that, you start ripping to the body nonstop and use that as your way of also maintaining range. I think that's going to be a really good strategy. It's going to drain that gas tank, and it's going to allow Johnson to land while he's staying safe where Temirov can't reach him. Now, I think it's inevitable that Temirov will be able to crash the pocket, will be able to close the distance, and will be able to land some big shots on Johnson. But if Johnson can take them, and we've seen him take some really big shots from some hard hitters, if he can take those shots and just circle out, get back into range, get his distance back, I do think he can outstrike Temirov. So for me, I have to favor Johnson because I think that overall he's a better striker. He's technically the more experienced. Like I was going to say, he's the way more experienced guy. Not really. He's the more experienced guy by a little bit, few more fights, but he has been in the UFC much longer. Temirov, this is only his second fight, knocked out Vergara, and that was really it in the UFC. Charles Johnson has been here. He's gone through the hard stuff. Now he's on a win streak. He's turned it around. He's fought the higher level of competition, and I can trust his cardio. That much I know for sure. He can go a hard 3 rounds. I do not know that about Temirov yet. Just there's no way to know that. It's possible that he can. I just don't have any reason to know or think that yet. And on top of that, another thing is like the grappling. I've seen a few people talk about it. I don't really know if Temirov has much offensive wrestling. I've seen like glimpses of it, but it's not really something he's doing. His takedown defense seems solid, and Charles Johnson isn't really, like, we've seen him get takedowns, and his jiu-jitsu is pretty low-key. I know we all love to throw away money on Charles Johnson sub props. I don't think it's going to happen here. I probably wouldn't throw away money on that one. But my point is, I don't really know if Johnson's going to be able to get takedowns. Maybe 1 or 2. But to me, Temirov seems to have good takedown defense, and he's so small. Like, good luck getting underneath him. Like, at least, like, going for a double leg or a single leg on the guy is going to be really difficult. Maybe trips, that could be more effective. Like, trips in the... I do think the clinch, that was something in my notes that just came back in my head. I think the clinch is going to be somewhere Charles Johnson can also have a lot of success, right? Because Temirov, he's going to have to get up close. He's going to have to get up close to land. And if Charles Johnson just clinches him up every time and starts throwing his knees or mixing in some elbows, he can also start scoring that way and start landing some damage. So while I'm relatively high on Temirov, and even though he's a small dude, I think that at 28, he does show enough promise and he does have a lot of power that he could be something in the flyweight division. I feel like right now, Charles Johnson should win this fight. Now, it's possible Temirov ends up being even better than we thought because, like I said, we don't have a ton of information. All his last 5 fights have ended in the first round, so we don't have a ton of info how he's going to look these days after that. He could be something, but right now I think Charles Johnson is the better fighter, and I think Charles Johnson will win the fight. I think if he survives the first round, that's going to be a good thing for him. I think if you're betting this, like for me personally, in terms of betting it, I'm not super tempted at -110 on either side because Charles Johnson, I'm a really big fan and I back him all the time, but he doesn't really separate, even in his wins. Sometimes he does, but he doesn't really separate all that much. And in a fight against a guy like Temirov, who's going to win moments by landing those really big shots and who is live for a knockout, I don't really know if I want to be backing Charles at -110. Now, if it was some solid plus money, like a +150, then yeah, I'd be in. But at this current line, pick him. There's too many questions on Temirov for me to be confident on either side. So I'm just going to pass for now. I'm going to pick Charles to win. I think live betting him is probably one of the best ways to do this because it's likely that Temirov will have a lot of success in the first round. He is a guy who's very front-loaded. He's a guy who comes out real hot and just starts throwing really big haymakers and big overhands and huge hooks. So we'll see how it plays out. Right now, I'm not touching it. If the line really comes in on Temirov and I get a nice pre-line on Johnson, I'll take it pre. If not, I'll maybe live bet it. And yeah, we can move on. Before we do, let me catch up with the chat. Champ saying this fight's a lot closer than he originally thought. He'll lean with CJ to find his flow, but he's afraid for him early. Yeah, only looking to live bet. That makes sense to me. Mad Mardigan, what's up, Mad Mardigan? Saying Ramazan Beck is the GOAT. Okay, there we go. Local man shakes fist is saying Ramazan Beck's brother is fighting in LFA next week. At least I'm assuming that his brother, because I don't think Charles Johnson has one. Glenbot, what's up, Glenbot? Thanks for tuning in, brother. All right, let's move on. That was only the first fight. Not going to spend a ton of time on this one. Montana De La Rosa versus Luana Carolina. De La Rosa, 13-9-1. She's 30 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Carolina, 11-4-0. She's going to be 31, so she's 1 year older, going to be the same height, and she's going to be at a 1-inch reach advantage. So this is like a fight that I just don't really want a ton to do with. I feel like Montana De La Rosa at this line is definitely the side. Like, I don't want to lay chalk on Carolina. Carolina's only somebody I would bet as an underdog, and I have. I did bet on her. I don't think she was an underdog against Stolyarenko. I don't remember, but I had her round 3 knockout prop, and that cashed, so that was nice. But overall, like I don't normally back her. Definitely not at chalk money. And against Montana De La Rosa, it's like, how could you be comfortable laying chalk on Carolina when has her takedown defense improved a lot? Yes, it's improved a lot. But she can still be taken down. And when she does get taken down, she can get stuck still on her back. And I do think that Montana De La Rosa is a very good wrestler. I think that on top, she's very, very difficult to get off of you. She has good control and she's got good ground and pound. So I don't really know how you can make Luana, or I get how you can make her the favorite if you're the bookie. You're thinking Montana hasn't really been looking that great. Carolina's on a 3-fight win streak. All right, you make her the slight favorite. But if you're betting it, I don't really see how you could be comfortable laying the chalk on Carolina. Like on the feet, should she be better? Yes, but she also doesn't really pull away, and she does a lot of kicks. She leans back a lot. It's not like Montana De La Rosa's got a lot of power that she's going to take advantage of that or throw a kick or something and take advantage, but she does lean back a lot. She's pretty hittable. If you back her up, take away the kicks, her hands aren't that great. I was honestly, like, off of memory, I feel like she was a better striker than she was on tape. Don't get me wrong, she is a good striker and a solid counter striker, and she will be the better striker here, but not by much, in my opinion. Montana De La Rosa is actually a decent striker now. Going into her last fight against Lee, I bet Lee, and one of my reasonings was that I just don't think Montana can strike, and I don't think she can strike with Lee. And I know that Lee has definitely been on a fall off a little bit, so we can't take a ton from that, but in terms of the actual striking, I thought that Montana's striking did look improved in that fight. She is 30 years old only. She was 29 during that fight. I just wish she was at more of a major gym. Like, she's just training with her husband and whoever they have there. I think they called it the De La Rosa team or something like that. I don't love that. I would like it a lot more if she was with higher level training partners, because she's only 30. She's got time to improve. I know she's been in the UFC for a while, but she could get better at a better gym. But regardless, I do think that on the feet, it'll be relatively competitive. Carolina cleaner. But if Montana De La Rosa can back her up, I think she can find success too. And then just don't stay at kicking range. That would be the major mistake, is just don't stay at kicking range with Carolina. And I think you're going to be fine and you can compete. And then she has a really big grappling advantage. Like I said, I know Carolina's takedown defense has improved a lot, but I do still think that Montana can take her down. I think she can control her, land good ground and pound, win minutes that way. I don't think she'll finish, but hey, Carolina has been submitted before. Montana does have some decent jiu-jitsu, so that's live too. And yeah, plus money, I feel like Montana's the side, and I am picking her to win. The only reason I haven't betted is it's like I also just can't really trust her decision-making at all. She doesn't grapple when she needs to. And when she does, like, she's just not pushing it enough. Like, she should be going for it more, and oftentimes she's not. And when I was breaking this down, right, I said a few times, like, if Montana doesn't keep this at kicking range, if she grapples, the problem is those are big ifs with her. She very well might just leave it at kicking range and let Carolina kick her and plot at her a little bit at range. It's possible. And it's also possible she's going to decide, you know what, today I don't feel like wrestling, and she's not going to wrestle. So that's why, even though I like her to win and she's the underdog, and I think it's definitely dog or pass, I haven't done it yet. I haven't played it yet. It's plus 125 on Montana now. I think that's value, but I just don't really trust her decision-making a ton. So I'm not running to the window to do that yet. Well, we'll see where it goes, but right now I'm just showing I'm not going to bet on it yet. But I will pick Montana to win. Champ saying he's going to war with Montana, thinks Carolina's been overperforming. Yeah, I mean, you would think Montana knows that this is her path, is to grapple, but you never know with her. I think she's a really good fighter, but the fight IQ isn't quite there sometimes. Anyways, let's move on. Next up, we have Lucas Almeida versus Danny Silva. Almeida, he's going to be 15-3-0, 34 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Silva, 9-1-0. He's 28, so he's 6 years younger. Going to be the same height, which I find hard to believe, and I'm not going to believe it until I see it. And he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. There's no way they're the same height. There's just no way. Lucas Almeida is like 6 foot something. He's like the same size as Zeljuber if you watch that fight. And then Danny Silva is like the same size as Kulabau, who I think is like 5'8" or 5'10" or 5'9". So there's no way they're the same height. Maybe they are. We'll see. But this fight's been kind of hard for me because pre-tape, I was thinking to myself, okay, let's do like it'll probably be a Silva spot. He's just one of those guys who doesn't F off. He has that dog in him, and Almeida gives that vibe that you can break him. But then I taped it, and like my gut is still telling me Silva will find a way to win. But my brain is telling me Almeida is going to win this, and I should bet on him at plus money. So I'm in a battle between my brain and my gut, and here's what I'm thinking. So I'm looking at this fight, and in terms of the striking, right? Let's start there. Let's start with the striking. Danny Silva's a good striker, and he has really good output, right? Well, hit or miss, hit or miss. He had really good output against Pacheco, but Pacheco also has horrible defense, right? Pacheco doesn't defend himself. He's just going to war with Danny Silva and anybody else he fights. So in that fight, yeah, Silva was able to land a lot. I think like 200 significant strikes, but that was also partially, I think, because Pacheco is so hittable. And then you look at the Culibao fight, and all of a sudden, he's not landing 200 strikes. I think he landed like 40 or something like that. And it's because Culibao had some movement. And Culibao's not just standing there going to war, trading with him in the pocket. Now, Almeida, he doesn't have a ton of movement. He's going to be kind of just moving forward, plodding forward. So Silva, maybe his output will be back to being a little bit higher here. But Almeida's output is also really high. He's a guy who throws a lot. And I think that it's going to be very competitive. But I feel like Almeida's the better striker. I feel like Almeida hits harder. I feel like Danny Silva's defense is even worse than Almeida's. Almeida's isn't great, but I don't think Silva's is any good either. He's way too happy to trade in the pocket. And honestly, going life and death with Pacheco on the feet, not super impressive to me. It's fun. It's exciting, but it's not super impressive. And then getting outstruck by Culibao. Culibao's pretty good. I don't rate him super high, though, so it's not my favorite look. And then, yeah, he was able to still do what he needed to do to get the win, right? He mixed in the grappling. It was a very close competitive fight. Not everybody felt like he won, but he was able to mix in that grappling, use that wrestling. And I think people are going into this thinking Silva's just going to have an easy time wrestling Almeida, but Almeida's takedown defense is actually pretty damn good, in my opinion. I was watching him against Kuamba, and like immediately underhooks just go, and he chucks it. He's got the hand control. He's fighting the hands. And to me, it looked like his takedown defense is actually pretty good. Maybe as the fight goes on, it's a little easier to take him down. But overall, I actually think his takedown defense is pretty damn solid. Kuamba was able to get him down and keep him there towards the end of the third. But other than that, I don't think he's easy to take down. I think that's being kind of overstated and overplayed. And I actually think his takedown defense is pretty good. So, and I don't think Silva's wrestling is all that amazing. It's not like he's like a guy who comes from a wrestling background. He's not. Now he's learning wrestling as part of his MMA game, but he's 9-1 still. So I still kind of see him as a little bit green, a guy who's still finding his style, who's still putting it all together. And because of that, I don't know that he's going to have an easy time wrestling Almeida. So the way I see it, it's like, where's Silva going to be better than Almeida that he should be minus 200? In terms of skills, like where is he better than Almeida? Is he a better striker? No. Is he a better offensive wrestler? Maybe, but I don't really see him getting the takedowns easily. Do I think he's in a sub Almeida? No. So where is he that much better? His cardio, I'll give him the cardio, and just the grit and having that dog in him. So because of that, because I just feel like he's more likely to find a way to win, even if he's not doing that great. That's why I'm saying that my gut is telling me to just pick Silva, and that despite what my brain is telling me, he's going to get it done anyway. But like, I just think, sorry about that. I just think that Almeida, like realistically, he should get this done if he doesn't choke. So I'm getting pretty tempted on the money line. I think he's plus 185 right now. The line's kind of been going back and forth. I'm not in a rush to play him because, like I said, my brain and my gut are in disagreement. My brain likes Almeida at plus money. My gut is saying Danny's just going to find a way. So I'm going to wait. If I end up missing out on a play, I think I'll be fine. And if Almeida ends up being a really big underdog, like plus 220, maybe a little bit higher, then I'll hop in because I just think I think it's wrong, but I need a little bit more to go against my gut because my gut is telling me, even though the line's wrong, Danny will just find a way to win because he's a really gritty guy who does fight for your money. But at the same time, I just feel like Almeida hits harder. He's a better striker. He can use his range better. I think he's going to be the bigger guy despite what the stats are telling us here. And I don't think he's going to be easy to take down. So if Danny doesn't break him late, I feel like Almeida wins the fight. So we'll see what happens in terms of if I get to a play or not. I'll pick Silva. I'll go with my gut. But it's definitely a dog or pass situation in terms of betting on this thing. I do kind of like the overs or the fight goes, like over 2.5. They haven't released it yet. or the fight goes to decision, it's plus 110 on Bet Online right now. I kind of like that. I know a lot of people are on the under, and I completely understand. It's because Almeida, he has been finished before. He's been knocked out once by Feely. He's been submitted once by Sabatini. And Silva, he hasn't been finished, but I guess people think he can be hurt. He can be hurt. So I guess people like the under because they're thinking Almeida hits hard. Maybe he can knock out Silva, and maybe Silva can break Almeida, knock him out, or sub him. I don't know. But this is kind of one of those overs I like to target because I actually think both guys are pretty durable. Yes, the Feely knockout loss isn't the best look, but it's not that bad. Feely hits pretty damn hard. That was like a year or 2 years ago. And I know Feely just lost by guillotine, but he was looking good in that fight up until that point. So I'm not putting too much stock into him getting knocked out by Feely. It happens. He got caught. I think overall he's pretty damn durable. He went all 3 rounds with Zellhuber in an absolute war. They both landed over like 100 significant strikes. He had a high-paced fight against Trezano that he won. And he just beat Kuamba in a fight where there was a lot of grappling involved also. So I don't know. I guess I kind of went from my point being that he's durable to also saying that he can go 3 rounds. But anyways, long story short, kind of like that over. That fight goes. I think they're durable. I think Danny will grapple a little bit. I think that could shave off some time on the clock. And I just think it's going to be a war, but I think it's going to be a war that goes over. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about Lucas Almeida money line. We'll see what happens. Before we move on, I'll catch up with the chat. Glenbot saying he likes the unders. It makes sense, but like I said, for me, this is a spot where I actually kind of like the over. Champ saying he leans Danny Silva to be more well-rounded and more durable, but wouldn't be shocked if he gets chinned. Yeah, Lucas does hit really, really hard. Almeida looks 2 inches shorter than Zellhuber, who's listed at 6'1". Danny looks a hair taller. Fair enough. Local man shakes fist, comes in with like the facts over here. Thank you, brother. All right, Henry. I always thought Almeida wasn't you. Why? He's got some solid wins. Like beating Trezano isn't easy. I think Trezano's a good fighter. He beat Trezano. Knocked him out in the 3rd. It was a good fight. He had a very competitive fight with Zellhuber, who's, in my opinion, UFC level. Irish Springy. What's up, Irish? The stash is really throwing me off, Couch. Reminds me of the dude from Cloudy. Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, I never leave facial hair on, really. I mean, I'll keep my beard sometimes until it's too itchy, and then I'll shave it off. But I was shaving right before the show, and my fiance told me to leave the mustache. So I did. And here we are. I have a mustache now. 6 Hound saying, Henry, you are tripping. Oh, because he said Almeida's not UFC level. Dravi, what's up, Dravi? Make sure you guys are checking out my guy Dravi on Twitter, and make sure you guys are checking out his podcast, Beat the Line Broadcast. I believe they go live on Wednesdays. 3 really dope guys, him, Pegasus, and Key 3 picks. Make sure you're checking them out. 3 really sharp dudes. And listen to Dravi, smash the like. I haven't checked yet how we're doing on likes. I'm going to go look in a second, and better be doing well, guys. Better be doing well. Mystic saying, I think people get Lucas Alexander and Almeida confused. Maybe. And maybe that's why the line is the way it is. I mean, I remember when he was the underdog to Kuamba, there I had a lot more confidence that he should not be the underdog. Like here, I told you guys, I'm back and forth. My gut says Silva. My brain says Almeida. In the Kuamba fight, I knew for a fact, in my opinion, that he should not be the underdog. And yeah, that ended up working out. So we'll see how this plays out. Irish Springy, by the way, side note, love the Ankalaev, Sean Brady, and Bahamonda's early bets. Yes, make sure you guys are in my Discord. It's free, 100% free. Doesn't cost you a penny. The link's in the description of this video if you need it. And you can come in. That's where all my bets are. That's where all my notes are, my breakdowns. And there's 300 of us that talk fights in there constantly every single day. So if you're into that kind of thing, make sure you come check it out. And I do post all my bets, even the early ones. And I've already got over 5 units down on Ankalaev. And I do have bets on Brady and Bahamondes now, too. All right, let's move on. Next up, we've got Andrea Lee versus JJ Aldrich. Lee is 13-10-0. She's 36, 5'6" with a 69.5-inch reach. Aldrich 13-7-0, 32. She's 4 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and she's going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't care. Like I really don't care about this fight. It's not because it's like a women's MMA bout. I like women's MMA. This fight in particular, I don't have any interest. Like, this is like Hamdi versus Pogues for me. I didn't have any interest there, and I don't really have any interest here. I don't think Andrea Lee should be plus 180. I think the line is way off, but she has lost a lot of fights in a row now. She does seem like she's kind of losing her touch. She's not really as fast anymore. Don't really see that athleticism showing through anymore, and just don't love the recent performances. I know the competition's been really good. Viviana Araujo still doing well. Macy Barber, beast. Natalia Silva, future champ. Miranda Maverick, really good fighter. And Montana De La Rosa, solid fighter, but that's starting to get there where, like, if Montana can beat her with minimal grappling, I feel like JJ can probably beat her too. JJ can grapple. JJ can strike. She's not phenomenal at anything. She's not bad at anything, but I don't really see what she does that she should be minus 200 over most people, maybe over really low level competition, but I don't, yeah, like, I just don't really care. I'm sorry. It's just a fight where I don't want to bet on it. I certainly don't want to lay the chalk on Aldrich. I'm not betting the over at minus 600 or whatever it is. I'm not going to bet the under because I don't see a path for it. And do I really want to bet Andrea Lee again? I've done it. I've done it before. I did it last fight. I don't know if I want to do it. If they keep going with this, like, if people just keep betting Aldrich for some reason, I'll get there. If, like, for some reason Andrea Lee ends up hitting like plus 250, I'll put a half unit. Like, I would do that. Not more than that, because she might be washed and Aldrich is the fresher fighter, the younger fighter. But aside from that, you put that to the side, Aldrich isn't better anywhere. So, yeah, I'm passing. I don't really want to spend too much time on that fight. There's much better fights on the card. Let's see what we got going on. Jiggy Man saying, did you just say over 5 units? Yes, it was originally a 3-unit play. I taped it some more and I added once he hit plus money, and I'm going to add more probably during fight week if people keep betting Pereira. I'm assuming the casuals will bet Pereira. If I get like something like crazy, like plus 150, I'll add another unit or two and make it a max bet. My max bets are usually 6 or 7 units. I think I did 10 for Marab, but I don't like doing that. So I think my max is going to be somewhere between 6 and 7. Right now I got 5 on Ankalaev. I'm willing to go a little further. I feel very comfortable about him. I've lost a lot of money fading Pereira in the past, but I think this is the one. Personally, I think this is the one. All right. 6 Hound saying super fight. He's talking about Andrea Lee and JJ Aldrich, by the way. So is Dravi over here. Let's see. Champ saying low level women's MMA. I don't even think it's low level. They're actually both pretty good. Like, it's medium level. It's just they're not super exciting fighters. And Andrea Lee is on a huge losing streak. Is hard to trust right now. Seems to be on a downtrend. And I certainly don't have interest on Aldrich at minus 200. So, yeah. And yeah, she's not even that much older, but she has kind of been around longer, I think. All right. Let's move on. Next up, we've got Douglas Silva de Andrade versus John Castaneda. Andrade, 29-6-0, 39 years old, 5'7" with a 68.5-inch reach. Castaneda, 21-7-0, 33. He's 6 years younger, 1 inch shorter, but he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So I'll start this off with, I think Castaneda should win, but I think the line's way too wide. In terms of why I think he should win, he's going to be, I don't want to say the better striker, but he's going to throw a lot more. He's going to do a lot more, and he just has a much better pace and cardio, and he's a younger guy who's taken a lot less damage, even though he has taken a lot of damage too. I just watched that the loss he had to Daniel Santos. That knee was disgusting. The sound of that knee, it sounded like I don't even know how to describe it. It was a horrible sound, and I played it back like 5 times. That was crazy. So Andrade has taken more damage in his career, but I don't think it's a super wide gap because Castaneda's taken some damage and he's fought some hard hitters too. But my point is, I think he's the rightful favorite because he's younger, because he's faster, because he's going to do more, throw more, and because he can push the pace and has better cardio. And Andrade does get pretty tired. He does get tired by the 3rd round, and this could be a spot where maybe Castaneda gets him out of there in the 3rd. We saw Stamen almost do that. Or maybe he just really dominates in the 3rd and the end of the 2nd is able to win that way. But I feel like the line's really wide. I know that Andrade is 39. I know he's at bantamweight, so that's not the best thing. but he's still a good fighter so far. Like, he's still been doing pretty damn well. I know he just lost to Miles Johns, but Miles Johns tends to bring that out of people. I know Castaneda was able to beat him by pushing that pace, like I said. So that's one of the reasons I'm saying Castaneda is the rightful favorite. But I just think that Andrade, his output most of the time isn't that bad. If his opponents are, actually coming at him and striking with him, because Johns is also a very low output guy, then Andrade is throwing and he's landing. And I think he's a very good striker in his own right. I think he's very explosive. I know for a fact that he's very powerful. He's got 20 knockout wins. Not that many in the UFC, to be fair, but he does have a good amount of knockdowns. And even in, I know he got like the sub win over Sergey Mozarov, but he did knock him down 2 times. So he does have a lot of power, and his takedown defense is really good. I know some people are thinking maybe Castaneda covers because he can grapple, maybe he can wrestle a little bit, threaten some subs. I think Silva's takedown defense is very good. I think he's very explosive. He's a very good scrambler. I don't think Castaneda will be able to hold him down if he does take him down, and I really don't think he's going to be able to submit him. So I think it's going to be on the feet. And I feel like Castaneda doesn't have enough substance to his strikes to be able to keep Andrade off of him. So if Andrade is just backing him up, and Castaneda makes that very easy, because that's what he does in every fight, is he backs up, backs up, backs up, backs up. It's not even really lateral movement. He's just moving backwards. Sometimes he'll move laterally too, but a lot of the time he just moves back, and Andrade can take advantage of that. That'll take away a lot of the weapons, a lot of those kicks. Like, it's hard to kick legs when you're moving backwards. So if Andrade can push him back, take away the leg kicks, because that's a really good weapon of Castaneda's, he's going to be landing. And I think he's going to be live to land a really big shot and knock Castaneda out. And if not that, I think he can win some moments too and be able to steal rounds with big shots, big combinations. So for me, I'll pick Castaneda to win, like I said, but I can't really rationalize him being minus 275. I don't think he's that kind of fighter that over solid competition can cover minus 275. Maybe in certain situations, but not in this one, in my opinion, because I don't think he's going to have a significant ground advantage. I don't think he has a significant striking advantage. I just think he has a solid output, cardio, and pace advantage. So, yeah, I think the line's too wide. I'm considering a play, but this is another spot where I'm not really in a rush, because Andrade is 39 years old, and he is, getting up there in age and maybe slowing down a little bit. So I'm not rushing, but plus 235 already to me is pretty damn wide. I think the opener plus 130 is a lot closer to accurate than plus 135 is. So we'll see. At this point, I don't really think it's a matter of whether I'm going to play it or not. It's just a matter of, am I going to put a half unit on it or a full unit? And we'll see. Probably just a half. Try to move my chair, because like I said, I do kind of worry about the third round for Andrade here. So maybe just a half unit, but I will probably get to the money line, at least to an extent. All right, let's see what we got in the chat, and then we'll move on. Jiggy Man, how much is the average unit? For me, it's $100 too. I mean, average, it really depends on the person. There's some people in this chat who bet a lot higher than $100, and I'm sure there's some people who bet a lot less, and I think both are okay. Champ saying he wishes he got on Sexy Mexi before the line has gotten this bad. Yeah, I mean, if somebody got the opener, what was the opener on a minus 150? Yeah, I can make sense of that. Minus 275, I can't really make sense of it. So, yeah, I'll end up on Andrade. Let's move on, though. Next up, we've got Ricardo Ramos versus Chepe Mariscal. Ramos is 17-6-0. He's 29, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Mariscal on the other side, 17-6-0. He's 32. They got the same record. He's 3 years older. He's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Ramos is so tricky for me. I don't know if he's good or not. I don't know if he's good. I feel like he's good, but I don't know, because a lot of fights he doesn't look that good. A lot of fights he doesn't seem to really have a lot of heart, a lot of grit. And he's fighting a guy who's the polar opposite, who's got all the grit, all the heart. He's the definition. When we say he's got that dog in him, Chepe Mariscal's got that dog in him. He's the definition of it. You open up a dictionary, go to dog in him, and Chepe's over there. So I guess I understand the line to an extent, because it's like you got a guy who's kind of flaky, who doesn't really perform too well, even at the best of times. When he looks his best, he's knocking someone out with a spinning move. Not really looking the best great at the best of times, can wilt against a guy who will not wilt, who will make people wilt, and who can beat the crap out of you if you start wilting. I feel like Chepe is definitely the rightful favorite. He's definitely the rightful heavy favorite. Are we going a little too far with minus 400? I think maybe a little bit. I think he hit minus 500 even, minus 450 now. It's weird because, like, let's go piece by piece. On the feet, who's the better striker? Like, technique? I don't know. Maybe even Ramos. He's got more tools. Chepe's got mostly hands. He does have good kicks, like good leg kicks and stuff, but Ramos will mix in the spinning stuff. He's got the elbows and the knees and a lot of kicks too. I hate the flashy movements. I'm not a fan of that. I like it if you can mix it in effectively. I don't like it when you constantly go to it, so I'm not a huge fan of that kind of thing. But I feel like skill for skill, it's kind of close on the feet. And Ramos doesn't really have a ton of power, but he's very explosive. And Chepe doesn't really have a ton of power either. Like, Chepe is not flooring anybody early. And if you look at Ramos's losses, all of his knockout losses in the UFC, he's either getting all of his losses in the UFC, he's either getting knocked out in the first or not at all. So he's getting finished in the first, or submitted in the first, or not at all. Otherwise, he's either losing a decision or winning in some other way. So I don't really see either guy having a tremendous power edge. Chepe, when he's getting people out of there, when he's hurting people, it's attritional. And the Damon Jackson fight probably could have been stopped a few times. He's a guy who comes on late, who the damage just adds up, and he'll just keep going and keep going and keep going. But in terms of like skill for skill, I feel like it's close. Power for power, I feel like it's close. In the grappling, Ramos is a pretty good wrestler too. He can wrestle. He got like 8 takedowns against Bill Algeo. That's how he won that fight, using his offensive grappling. He can be taken down in his own right, and so can Chepe though. Chepe's takedown defense is solid, but I think he can be taken down. And his own offensive grappling, like, he'll occasionally go for like doubles and singles, but it's mostly throws. He's got that judo base. I don't really know if that's going to work on Ramos a ton, maybe a few times, but again, I think the grappling's kind of close. And then jiu-jitsu, definitely Ramos. I feel like he's clearly the better grappler, like in terms of submission grappling. Does he get subbed? Yeah, he got caught in 2 guillotines, and getting submitted as a black belt by guillotines 2 times in a row is not a great look. But Chepe's not really subbing anybody, and you don't really see much of a submission grappling game from him. So just putting that like on paper, this is not a minus 500 fight. It's a pretty close fight on paper. You bring in the other factors like Ramos wilting, kind of slowing down, Chepe having really good cardio, being the opposite of wilting, just always bringing it, high pace, high pressure, just very aggressive, very violent. Then it makes sense to make Chepe the favorite. But I just feel like maybe it went a little too far. Do I want to bet Ramos? No. But he is at the Fighting Nerds now. And I know that didn't go great for Mayra Bueno Silva, and that didn't go great for Bruno Brazil. But for the men, it's been working for the most part, except Kanan. It didn't work well for him. But everybody else, it's worked. So let's see. Maybe they can. Maybe they put something in him, some good vitamins, some good advice, and maybe he can come out here and look really good. Because look, at the end of the day, if Ramos doesn't wilt, I can see him winning. Like, all jokes aside, if he doesn't wilt, I can see him winning. I could see him landing good shots on the feet. I could see him winning some minutes. I could see him landing his own takedowns, maybe even taking the back of Chepe. Not necessarily subbing him, but maybe at least like getting those positions and maybe threatening it, winning some minutes. So I feel like maybe I'll take a small shot on Ramos. I don't know. I've been kind of torn. Like, part of me was like, should I go Chepe knockout? Because I think he'll probably get Ramos out of there. Should I go Chepe 2-3? Because I can see him doing it attritionally. But then part of me is like, listen, Ramos is plus 350. I feel like that's kind of wrong. He's at Fighting Nerds now. Maybe he's going to look even better. He's still only 29. Might be a good time to try and give it one last try. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I'm definitely not confident on either side. I do think Chepe is the rightful favorite. I don't blame anyone who's doing anything with him. Like, I get if you parlayed him a little bit earlier before he was minus 500, even though I think he was minus 500 the whole time, to be honest with you guys. I can understand if you're going Chepe 2-3, because that's something I'm considering too. I can understand if you're going Chepe knockout. But I'm a gambler and I play numbers, and Ramos plus 350 when I think skill for skill, it's close. And maybe there's a little bit of fighting nerds juice going on. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not dying to play him. It's another spot where I think I'll just let the week play out. I'll see what the domestics give me for Chepe 2-3, because on Bet Online it's crap. It's like plus 350 for round 2 and like plus 500 for round 3. So I'll see what the domestics give me for those lines. I'll see what the domestics give for Chepe knockout. And then I'll see how far the line goes and if Ramos becomes an even bigger underdog. And if he hits like plus 400 or something, I'll throw like a half unit or something on it. We'll see. Let's catch up with the chat. Champ saying price on Chepe is getting insane. Thinks Ramos could find a finish, but probably will have to be quick, dog or pass. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm kind of feeling too. Like, I don't think he knocks out Chepe, but I also think it's possible. He's a very explosive guy. And I could see a sub. And I could see Ramos winning minutes at the grappling too. I don't think it's super likely. Like I said, I think Chepe is the rightful favorite, but the line feels a little too much. Let's see. Champ saying his hand might be forced. Me too, my brother. Local man shakes fist, says Ramos round 1 only scorecards are finished will probably open the same as money line. That is a play, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe. Maybe if they actually open it the same as money line, but I don't think they will. Maybe Ramos plus 3.5 at plus 250. I don't hate it, but it's like you're playing a spread in a fight where he can be finished. So then it's like not as like if I thought for a fact Ramos is not getting finished here, then I'd be pretty tempted at a spread of plus 3.5 at plus 250 because I'm losing a little bit off the money line, but I'm getting covered in case he only wins 1 round. But considering that he could get finished attritionally here, I'm not super like if I'm gonna play it, I'm probably just gonna play the money line, you know. Pepe, thank you, my brother. Good luck as well. Thanks for tuning in. Always appreciate you hopping in. All right, let's move on. Okay, we're on the main card now, so I think it's time to check how we're doing on YouTube. Let's see how we're doing with likes. Get your likes in now before I see. Let's pull it up. All right, 15 likes. I feel like we can do better than that. Like it up, guys. Come on, help me out. Help out the channel. Let's keep growing this thing. But okay, let's move on. Next up, we've got Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson. Barlow 9-0, undefeated, 29 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. Patterson 12-2-1, 28 years old. He's 1 year younger. He's going to be 1 inch taller, but he's at a 1 inch reach disadvantage. So there's one thing in particular I want to talk about here. So, you know, I've been hearing a lot of talk this week about, you know, Barlow having the split with Veretennikov and people now being low on that because Veretennikov had a bad performance. And then other people in response will be like, yeah, but he broke his left hand, or like, yeah, he broke something in his left hand. And then that happened also in the Quinlan fight. And it's like, I get it. And that's why he didn't perform maybe as well as he should have because he broke his hand. But why is he breaking his hand back to back in 2 different fights? Like, what's wrong with his hand? That's where my mind goes. My mind doesn't, I'm not like sitting here thinking like, oh, he's going to be a lot better now that his hand is healed. I'm thinking to myself, why does he keep breaking his hand in the fights? Because clearly this is a problem. It happened 2 times in a row. That's the excuse now, 2 times in a row. I don't even know why there's excuses considering he won both those fights. I guess not as dominantly as people thought he would, but is something wrong with his hand? Is this just something that's going to happen now? Is that maybe something we have to put into our capping? Like, do you want to lay minus 300 on a guy who broke his hand 2 fights in a row and might break it again? Jokes aside, though, I do have a play on Patterson. I played it at plus 250. It's a spot where I do 100% think that Barlow could dead him. He 100% can. Yanal Ashnu's put the guy out with a big overhand right, and he's a tiny, tiny guy. And that was at lightweight. And Danny Barlow is a very good striker. He's very sharp. He's very accurate. He's got a lot of power. And Sam's chin is just there to be hit. And he's got that tall man's defense. It's way up there. So can Barlow knock him out clean? Absolutely. Is Barlow the rightful favorite? In my opinion, absolutely. But I think that the line's too wide. I think the line's way too wide because at the end of the day, Barlow's grappling is still not super tested. His takedown defense has been tested a little bit now, a little bit in the UFC, not a ton, but a little bit. His takedown defense is solid, but so far we haven't really seen him on the ground outside of that one fight. Forget the guy's name. No, I think it was a little further than this. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but where he did give up some bad situations in the grappling and it didn't look that great. And that wasn't that long ago. His career is pretty young. He's still a guy who's pretty green, who's still relatively new to the sport. And I feel like if Patterson does get him down, I feel like the gap there is going to be huge. I feel like the gap on the ground is going to be really, really wide. Patterson is a very good grappler. He's a very dangerous submission grappler. His wrestling isn't amazing by any means, but it's not bad either. And if he can get Barlow down, I can 100% see him submitting Barlow. I can 100% see him just keeping it there and winning the round. And yeah, because of that, I feel like plus 250 is too wide. And also, like, Patterson can strike with him. Barlow's a much better striker and he hits harder. He's more dangerous, but Patterson's a decent striker in his own right. If he just tucked his damn chin, he'd be very competitive on the feet here, I think. It's like, I'm fine with him striking as long as he tucks his chin. If he's going to fight like he normally does, I would really prefer he doesn't strike at all. But I do think he could be competitive on the feet. Would I bet him if I thought he would only strike? No. But I think he can be competitive enough on the feet. And then if he brings it to the ground, I think he's going to have a really, really big advantage. So because of that, at plus 250, I was willing to put a unit on it. It's not like I'm betting on some bum at plus 250. I'm betting on a guy who I think is actually pretty good. He's 28 years old. He's filling into this new weight class now. Don't forget, he did get knocked out by Ashmuz at 155, a weight class that probably was a pretty hard cut for him, considering he's 6'3", and he did move it up in weight immediately. So I think that also might have something to do with it. I think that chin might be better nowadays. And I think that the gap on the ground is just a lot wider, I think, than the gap on the feet, even though there is a gap on the feet as well in favor of Barlow. I just think that if Patterson can bring it down to the ground, he can 100% find a finish. So plus 250, I'm going to rock with it. I put a unit on it. Let's see what we got going on in the chat. Snowman, look at Patterson's neck. Yeah, his neck is like a good 5 inches in height right there. Champ saying, I think left hand to God finds a KO. Would only look at betting him by knockout. What is the knockout line? Let me guess before looking. Minus 180. Minus 135. It's not terrible, but it's like he can win a decision too, you know? How does the under look bad here? I mean, Barlow's last few fights have gone over. Maybe he breaks his hand again into the first round. I still want to understand what's going on with the hand breaking every fight. I mean, look, the under's probably good, but grappling involved, that could drag it over. In general, I just don't like under 1.5. So I'm not good at them. It's not my forte. I don't like having only 7.5 minutes for the fight to finish. I get incredibly anxious and then I don't want to watch the fight. So I don't bet under 1.5 unless I think it's something like really, really off. But here I feel like it's fair. It's like it should be maybe slightly favored because both guys are dangerous in their own areas. Barlow can get a knockout early. Patterson's defense isn't great. And Patterson could get a sub early if he gets him down early. But I can also easily see it going all 3 rounds. I could see it going and getting extended. So not really a spot that I'm targeting for the under, but it doesn't make sense. I think he's answering for why my question of why his hand keeps breaking. Like, is that not a good point? You know, like all week long, you hear about, oh, he didn't do well because his hand broke again. What's going on with the hand? It's the second time in a row. Is he going to break it again? Maybe he hits too hard. Barlow does hit hard. The chin is definitely a concern for Patterson. But like I said, I think moving up to 170 might be helpful to him. Champ agreeing with me there, but also thinks Barlow's power is ridiculous. Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on. Next up, we've got William Gomis versus Hyder Amil. Gomis, he's going to be 14-2-0, 27 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 73-inch reach. Amil 10-0, undefeated. He's 34. He's 7 years older. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. It's going to be pretty hilarious if in the year of the undefeated fighters and really good undefeated fighters like Umar and Peyton Talbot losing their O's, Hyder Amil, if he pulls up and just keeps his 0 after this, it'll be pretty good stuff. And I think he can keep his 0 after this. I did bet on him. I bet on him at plus 175. And look, skill for skill, yeah, Gomis is much more skilled than him. Much more. He's way more defensively sound. He's so defensively sound, he's boring. But he's really, really good at staying safe. He's good at using his range. He's good at using those kicks. He does have good striking. He's a great striker. And his grappling is pretty good too, offensively and defensively. He can be taken down. He definitely can be taken down. But overall, I'd say his takedown defense is good. His offensive grappling is solid. His striking is good. His defense is very good. Doesn't have a ton of power. The Gamori knockout is as fraudulent as knockouts come. And my main issue with him is he doesn't really separate, and you can see that because every single fight is a split decision or a majority decision at the UFC level, at least. And because of that, I won't ever lay chalk on him, ever. I remember going into the Brito fight, that was one of those spots that I was really kicking myself for afterwards because it was like a spot where I thought Gomis was a solid play, but I just chickened out completely, and Gomis got it. But at chalk, I would never bet him. I just don't think he separates enough. He's very low output. He's happy to counter. And I mean, that'll be fine here for the most part because Amil's going to give him his opportunities to counter. He's going to bring the fight to him. So Gomi will have his opportunities to counter, but overall, like, his output's very low. He doesn't separate. He doesn't have a ton of power. And while he can mix in the wrestling, I don't think it's all that amazing. And with Amil, yes, he's extremely sloppy. He's extremely hittable. But the dude is durable as hell. He brings that fight every single time. He has that dog in him. He has that grit. He's a good hammer and a good nail. He can take it and he can give it. And a guy like him, he's got a lot of power. He's not going to give Gomis his range. Gomis is going to try, and he's going to move laterally like he always does, and he's going to try to maintain that distance. But Amil's not going to give it. I just don't think he's going to give it to him. He's not going to stay in kicking range. He's going to back him all the way up and just start ripping in the pocket, going to the body, going upstairs. Now, there's a lot of concerns with Amil. He's not sound defensively at all. He doesn't really know the concept of defense. He's kind of like a smaller version of Trevor Peek, even though I think they're in the same weight class even. But he's very similar to Trevor Peek to me, maybe a little bit more skilled, but still just kind of goes for it. But I forgot what my original point was. I lost my train of thought. But regardless, I think that he's not going to give Gomis his space. I think that he hits harder than Gomis. I think he's more live to win the moments with those big shots. I think he can win minutes too, because like I said, Gomis, he's just not a guy who separates. And if Hyder is the one backing him up, already that visual is going to help. And then him landing the shots, he's going to have higher output. He's going to hit harder. I think he's going to be able to win both minutes and moments on the feet. And can Gomis maybe grapple him? Maybe. Yeah, Amil can be taken down, but he's a pain in the ass to hold down, and he's not easy to take down. Like the guy he fought on the Contender Series who was shooting on him, Emran Samez, I believe is the name. Haven't heard about him in a while, but that guy's a good wrestler, and he could not hold down Hyder. He had a hard time taking him down, and I don't think Gomis is going to have an easy time taking Hyder down. It's not really his game. He's a striker. So long story short, I do think Gomis is the rightful favorite, and I'd pick him to win. But in terms of a bet, I did bet Hyder at plus 175. I just think the line's too wide. I don't think Gomis should be a heavy favorite or a moderate favorite, whatever you want to call, minus 200 or minus 250. I don't think he should be over most people just because he does not separate enough, in my opinion. And I think a guy like Hyder might cause problems with that. So is Brito. Brito's also a guy who should have caused problems with that, and it was a close fight. Brito's a little bit better than Hyder. Maybe that's some of the thought process going on for people, but I just think that Hyder can pull this off. So I took the shot at plus 175. And I believe it's still a close line to that. Plus 160. You can get plus 176 on FanDuel, unless that just hasn't updated yet on Fight Odds. But right now, that's what it says. I think plus 160 is fine too. I would have played it if that's when I got to it. But we can move on. Let's see what we got going on in the chat real quick before we do. Here, we'll move it back so it's not confusing. Okay. Champ saying we're on opposite ends. He likes Gomis. Thinks Amil's going to get countered a bunch. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Me and my boys had fun in the group. Oh, that's crazy. He's saying he was there at he was watching the fights, I believe at the sports book. Gomis is going to give Amil 15 minutes to catch him. That's what I'm saying. I feel like Gomis is just going to be on the back foot the whole time, and Hyder's going to be just chasing after him the entire fight. And Hyder's got the cardio for it. He looks like he gets tired sometimes, but he'll keep fighting through it. So I'm not super worried about that either. At plus 175, plus 160, I think he's a solid play, personally. But I can understand people who rather play Gomi too. All right, next up we have Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Lane is 13-5-0. He's 37, 6'5" with an 80-inch reach. Pinto 9-0 undefeated. He's 26, so he's going to be 11 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and they're going to have the same reach pretty much. So for me here, like I like Pinto to win. Do I want to bet him at plus 370? No. Am I going to parlay that? Absolutely not. I still have questions about the guy. I still want to see him against higher level competition. He does seem pretty good, and we know he can go at least three rounds. We know he can go 15 minutes. He's done it before. I believe he's gone 5, if I'm not mistaken, against Kasim. Pretty sure that was a 5-rounder. Don't remember off the top of my head now, but he does have cardio. He is well-rounded. You don't really see him offensively wrestle too much, but his takedown defense does look pretty good. Kasim is a good wrestler. That's his base, if I'm not mistaken. And he did get taken down once or twice in that fight, but he was able to pop back up pretty quickly. And for the most part, he stuffed a lot of the takedowns. So he did grab the fence a few times, but overall, the takedown defense looks pretty good. He looks like a good striker and just doesn't really seem to have a lot of power, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of finishing instinct. I know he just got Lucas Camacho out of there in the first round, but I don't really know how much emphasis to put into that yet. I don't really know much about Camacho's chin in general. But in terms of like who do I think has a higher ceiling? Clearly Pinto. I do think Pinto has a future in the heavyweight division. He's a young guy. He's huge, and he already has some skills, and he has time to build into it at heavyweight. So I definitely think he's somebody who's going to be ranked, probably highly ranked, and I think he wins this fight, but I don't want to bet him at minus 370 because I don't know how he's going to handle any kind of real adversity. Austin Lane is not the best, but he's a very athletic guy. He's a very strong guy, a powerful guy. He's got decent power on the feet. He's got decent striking, and he can wrestle a little bit. Up until the Jonathan Deniz fight, he had never shot a takedown at all. And then finally, I was talking about it all week going into that fight, all week going into the Rebellis fight. He can do it. He just hasn't, but now he has. We've seen him wrestle. We've seen him do it for 3 rounds and beat Rebellis there. I actually had Rebellis round 2 and round 3 there. I remember I thought Lane would grapple in the first, get himself out of there into the second and third rounds, and then Rebellis would get him. But no, he just kept taking Rebellis down. But we know now that he can wrestle. He can use that athleticism. He's not the world's best wrestler, but he can do it. And he's decent in the striking department, but he is pretty chinny. He doesn't take damage super well. And I just think that Pinto is overall the better fighter. But my point is, I can't bet minus 360 here against Austin Lane, even though Lane's not the highest level fighter. I just need more information on Pinto first. Because would I be super shocked if Lane came out here and was able to grind out a little decision win against Pinto using some wrestling and some big shots? I mean, I'd be a little surprised, but not super surprised. So I don't want to bet on Pinto at chalk. Don't want to parlay him. But what I do kind of like is I like the over 1.5. I feel like that's a solid play. It's minus 105. I haven't done it yet just because I'm kind of waiting for it to open up on other books too. But I like it. You know, I know Lane's been knocked out early most of the time, but I just don't think Pinto hits very hard. It doesn't seem like he hits all that hard to me. He can catch people, but he doesn't really seem to hit super hard. And he also doesn't really fight with the crazy pace, and you don't really see him like chasing after the kill or anything like that. You know, some heavyweights, they just go out there and just start swinging. That's not really Pinto. He's calculated. He's a much more calculated fighter than you're used to seeing at heavyweight. And because of that, a lot of his fights go over on the regional scene. He has been to a decision like 3 times, I think. So I do think that the over is a nice way to play it. I think that it could cash in a few ways. You know, it could cash if it plays out on the feet, because Pinto, like I said, not the hardest hitter, and he's kind of tentative sometimes, a little bit low output at times. Almost looks like sometimes he's sparring a little bit or something like that. But And the other way I can see it cashing is maybe some wrestling being mixed in by Lane. Maybe Lane is able to use that explosiveness, the athleticism early in the first round, take Pinto down, maybe keep him there. We don't really have a ton of info of Pinto off his back once he gets grounded, because in a Kasim fight, he kind of just popped right back up. So I haven't really seen him grounded yet on his back, but I don't know. We'll see. I do think the over is a nice way to play it, and it's really the only way I'd consider playing this fight is the over 1.5. Let's see what we got in the chat. Champ Lake and Pinto as a prospect. Thinks the line is nasty, though, so he wouldn't bet it. But he's live to get a late finish. Yeah, late finish could be live, too. I wonder what round 3 is. Pinto round 3. Nah, plus 700. That's not nice. I love taking 2 locks for 500. Could Pinto be one of them? I hate the word lock because I feel like the second you say lock, they're guaranteed to lose. But if you told me, like, if you put a gun to my head and told me, give me 2 legs for a parlay, do we care how wide the line is? Because I mean, I can give you Andrea Lee, JJ Aldrich over 2.5 at minus 550. And then we can add on Luana and Montana's over 2.5 at minus 450. I think both of those are close to locks as you can get, but I wouldn't tell you to bet them. I don't hate Pinto though. If you insist on parlaying, he's probably one of the better ones on the board. Like Pinto, maybe Ribovics. It's like some of these, like, depending who you listen to, you go listen to somebody else, they might give you somebody like Barlow or maybe Gomis, but because I bet against both of those guys, I'm not going to give you them. So yeah, can't really help you too much there with the parlay. Champ thinks UFC at Pinto and Kape on the same card for a reason. Why? Because they're both from Portugal, trying to build the market, you're thinking? Exactly, Six Sound. Locks do not exist. And because I firmly believe in jinx, that's why you'll never, ever hear me use the word lock. Listen, man, it's possible. It's possible. And that's why until I see a little bit more from Pinto, I'm not going to lay the chalk on him. But an over, that I could be interested in. Because if Lane does lay and pray, that over will probably cash. Champ not hating 2-3 Pinto finish. Yeah, just kind of crappy line on it. You know, plus 700 in a heavyweight fight for a round 3. It's kind of cheeks. All right. Next up, we've got Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. The fact this is underneath Brundage and what's his name? Brundage and Marquez is so funny. But anyways, Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. Nasrat is 17-5-0. He's 29 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Ribovics, he's going to be 14-1-0. He's 28, so he's 1 year younger. He's going to be the same height, and he's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. So for me, I mean, I feel like this line's really off. I think most of us could probably agree there. I think that Ribovics is the rightful favorite because he's just going to bring that fight. And Nasrat has, you know, he's won a few fights he maybe didn't necessarily deserve to win. Like the McDessie fight was very close. The Jared Gordon fight was very close. But those are good fighters, good strikers, you know. And I just feel like, yeah, I'd favor Ribovics to win. He's, you know, ever so slightly younger. I think he hits harder. He really brings that pace. He really brings that pressure. But, like, how does he cover minus 270 if he doesn't knock Nasrat out? Like, is he just going to 30-27 him on the feet? Because not many people do that. Nasrat's a pretty good striker. Even, like, against Dan Hooker, right? Dan decided to grapple against him. So it's like, is Esteban just going to cover minus 270 just striking with Nasrat? I don't think so. Is he going to grapple? Usually he's the one getting grappled. I don't really see him taking down Nasrat, and who has, in my opinion, has good takedown defense. And now Nasrat sometimes mixes in takedowns, and maybe he can take Ribovics down, but I feel like... What just happened? Oh, God. All right, guys, bear with me for a second here. Fuck's sake. All right, guys, I'm going to need you to bear with me for a moment. I think the camera died and I have to go get the other battery. I will be right back. We're back. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Camera died. New camera. Still getting used to it. All right. But yeah, back to my point. My point pretty much is I think that Ribovics is the rightful favorite just because he's a little bit more aggressive than Nasrat, has a little bit more pop to his punch, more likely to win some of the moments. But I think the line is way too wide, and I'll probably get to a Nasrat play. I've been kind of dragging my feet because I don't really want to bet against Ribovics. He's a really fun and aggressive and powerful guy, but I am a numbers better. I bet numbers, and I can't really make a ton of sense of this. Like, maybe somebody in the chat could tell me how Ribovics covers minus 275, but or minus 270. What is it now? Minus 275. Like, how does he cover it? I don't really know. Nasrat's a really good striker in his own right, and he's pretty good defensively. He uses his movement pretty well. He does tend to get hit quite a bit, and like Ribovics will probably land a lot, but I just think it's going to be a really close fight playing out on the feet, and I just don't know how Ribovics covers minus 270. He'll be my pick, but it's a dog or pass spot for me. Moving on, we've got our co-main event somehow. We have Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez. Brundage 10-6-0. He's 30 years old, 6 feet tall with a 72-inch reach. Marquez on the other side, he's going to be 9-5-0. He's 34. He's 4 years older, 2 inches taller, and he's going to have the same reach. So it's a weird fight. I mean, with Marquez, I have some red flags in that he's very inactive. He's fighting like one time a year. He has horrible cardio, and his takedown defense is also atrocious. He has terrible takedown defense. His main takedown defense is threatening chokes, and that doesn't really go very well often. And then with Brundage, you have another pile of red flags. You have a guy who also doesn't have the best cardio. You have a guy who has some of the worst fight IQ I've ever seen in my entire life. The Cedric Dumas fight will never cease to amaze me. He's able to take him down, and then he goes for a guillotine. He starts to work his way back up. He's got the single. He could finish and bring him back down. No, he goes for the guillotine again. I think he went for the guillotine 3 or 4 times in that fight. It was truly incredible. So terrible fight IQ. And then it's also like, I kind of feel, I don't like to say this about fighters because they got 20 times the guts I do. I don't fight in a cage. They go out there and they fight on the biggest stage ever. But he does, I'll say it this way. He's a horrible nail. He's a good hammer. When he's having success, when he's able to hurt guys, when he's able to find, like when he's having success, he's doing great. The second he starts to feel adversity, he's done. Like show me one fight where he came back from adversity. On the Contender Series against William Knight, he's winning that fight. And then the second he starts feeling a little bit of adversity, William Knight's able to get on top and get the ground and pound TKO, I believe it was. Like pretty much any single fight you look at, the second there was some sense of adversity, he found the door. Now, the whole thing with the Al Hassan no contest and the Malkoun DQ. I mean, can you blame Brundage? Not really. He didn't really do anything. It just kind of happened to him. But I just feel like he's a really bad nail. I'll say it that way. And I feel like Marquez is also kind of a bad nail, pretty much. But yeah, it's like both guys are huge red flags. This is probably a fight that should be pick 'em because I don't really favor either guy. You know, who's the better striker? I think Marquez is actually a pretty decent striker, but so is Brundage. Brundage can box. Brundage can box. He's got some decent kicks too. So does Marquez. Like they're both solid strikers. I think if you made if it was a kickboxing match, I think Marquez would be better by a little bit. He looked pretty good against Marc-Andre Barriault on the feet for the first round and a half. Then once he got tired, then he fell apart and got finished. But up until that point, he looked pretty good. So, like, I think the striking's close. I think Marquez is a little bit better. I think both of them hit pretty hard. I think maybe Brundage hits a little bit harder. And that, so, like, on the feet, I think it's close. And I think both guys can knock each other out because I don't think either guy has a great chin and both have a good amount of power. And then the grappling is kind of tricky because it's like Marquez offensively doesn't really wrestle and Brundage has very good takedown defense. So I don't really think Marquez is taking him down. But Marquez has awful takedown defense, and Brundage has good wrestling. He's a good wrestler. So I can see Brundage taking down Marquez. I can see Brundage controlling him. It's just it's going to require some fight IQ first because he's going to have to make that decision to go for the takedown and not just chase a knockout. And I don't know if I can trust him to do that. If he does, I think he has a very, very clear path to even win by decision. That's a prop I'm going to look at. If he grapples, he can win this thing just by winning minutes. But the other concern outside of the fight IQ is also, I feel like Brundage might just run into a sub. Because, like I said, Marquez's only real defense to takedown attempts against him are submission attempts and the front chokes and whatnot. And Brundage is the kind of guy who'll just fall into one of those and then just tap because I don't think he's a good nail. And I don't think he has a ton of grit in him. So, yeah, don't really have a ton of interest at all. I'm going to pick Brundage to win because I think he has more ways he could win. I think he can knock out Marquez, and I think he can win a decision. But I'm not really dying to play him. Maybe if I got to it at like a better line at like plus 185, yeah. But now it's plus 118. The line is really closing in. I'm hearing a lot of people are on Brundage. It's like, I get it. I'm going to pick him to win, but I don't want to put my money on this. Definitely not on the money line. And like the under 1.5, that makes a lot of sense, but minus 170, and I'm just not good at those. Whenever I bet those, especially at chalk, I lose. So I'm definitely not doing that. I feel like for me, unless the money comes back in on Marquez, and I don't think it will, because I don't know a single soul who's betting Marquez, but I would possibly bet Brundage decision. That I would do. Right now it's plus, what is it? Plus 675. It is on Bet Online. It came up a little bit. It opened up plus 500. I'm going to wait and see what the domestics give me because Fight Goes is plus 300. Brundage is the underdog. I feel like they're going to give me a pretty good price on the decision on domestics. I'm hoping for something close to like plus 900 or something, and I'll just throw like a quarter unit on it because I really can see him winning a decision if he just offensively wrestles. Now that's going to require a lot of it's going to require 15 minutes of him not making stupid decisions, but that's why I would only bet it at like plus 900 or whatever, because I do think there's a path to it. I think he can win by decision, but I'm only going to bet it if I can get a really nice number. Plus 675 isn't bad, but I want better than that because it's a stressful bet, that's for sure. But I will pick Brundage with very little confidence. All right, before we talk about the main event, let me catch up with the chat real quick. We got 80 live viewers right now, 30 on YouTube, 51 on Twitter. Please, guys, if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. Really, really helps with the algo. Like it at least. Comment if you're a great person, because that really helps. And subscribe if you haven't already, obviously. And if you're on Twitter, for the love of God, you guys never do anything. Like it at least. Usually, I'll get like 50 to 100 viewers on Twitter live and then like 3 likes. Like the damn video. You're watching me right now while I talk to you, looking you in the eyes. Like it. Like the video, share it, comment, say good job, Mike, bad job, Mike, idiot Mike, smart Mike, whatever you want to say. Just say something. Helps. All right. let's catch up with the chat and then we'll hop in. We'll talk about the last fight. Let's see. Six Sound saying, "Cop, please don't pull out," because he's talking about Brundage and Marquez as the main. I feel like it. Yeah, no, that just can't happen. That can't happen. I don't think I've seen anyone on Marquez yet. He's still the favorite. Yeah, that's an interesting point. It's like I've only heard people talk about betting Brundage, but the line has come in a lot. I mean, what else do we want from the bookies? Like, the line looks like it's trending to flip, and it's only Tuesday. Jussie saying Marquez very confident, said this is his best camp ever. They trained together for 9 months. All right, maybe. Marquez by Anaconda. Everybody's having so much fun with those specific method props for the subs, and I don't even think we have those here in New York. Let's see. Hey, Matty Betts has his moments. I've seen him hit some pretty crazy bets. All right. All right, let's jump into the main event. We've got Manel Kape versus Asu Almabaev. Manel Kape 27-0. He's 31 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. Almabaev 21-2-0. He's 31 as well. He's 1 inch shorter, and he's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Jussie, if I ever drive all the way to Jersey just so that I can play Marquez by Anaconda choke, somebody needs to put me in something. I need help if I do that. Okay, I should not be driving to Jersey to bet on Marquez by Anaconda. All right, Asu Army stand up. All right, let's talk about it. So, first off, if you follow me, if on Twitter, if you're subscribed on YouTube, you probably already know I do have an Asu Almabaev future to be champion end of 2025. I got it at plus 15,000 and I got it at plus 7,000, and we're dangerously close. For a second there, I thought we lost it because he was supposed to fight Usyk. So when that fight got announced, I was like, yes, we are live for the ticket. But I didn't think that was a title eliminator because Manel Kape was fighting Brandon Royval. But I thought it would get us closer. Then Usyk got moved to the Moreno fight. Asu got Nascimento instead, and I was like, well, there goes the ticket. He's not getting a title shot now. And then Royval drops out. They say, never mind. Come on, Asu, fight Kape. And all of a sudden, now they put him into the literal title eliminator. And I'm pretty sure this is still a title eliminator because I'm not sure what else there is unless you're going to do the winner of Moreno Usyk. But I feel like this one makes more sense to do this as a title eliminator. And if Asu wins this, that ticket's very live. And literally all I need is I just need him to fight Pantoja. And I need him to win this fight. I need Pantoja to beat Kai Kara-France so there's not a rematch. And then I just need a decent line on Pantoja, and I can safely ARB. That's all I want. I don't really expect Asu to beat Pantoja. I think Pantoja is a different animal, an absolute beast. But if I can just get him there into the title shot, and then I can just ARB, I'll feel pretty good about that. And that would be Pantoja's second title defense, so we're probably talking later on in this year. Then I just need either Pantoja or Asu to hold on to the belt, and I profit. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, because I already had the future, I was kind of thinking to stay off and not play this. But plus 205, it was like plus 270 at one point. I got a little bit down at plus 270, but I didn't track that. I ended up tracking plus 205 for a unit. I feel like that's too wide. I know this is a big step up. I know. 100% I get it. I do think 5 rounds favors Kape. I think that on the feet, Kape is way better, way faster, way more powerful. 100%. But Kape is so hit or miss. Like, it depends on the weather for how he shows up, you know? Sometimes he comes in there, he's a killer, and sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's just way too tentative. I do think there's something to it when he's fighting a wrestler. He's a little bit more tentative. We've seen that a few times now, that his output is a little bit lower when he's fighting a grappler, a guy who will grapple proactively, like a Mokaev, for example, or like even a David Dvorak. His output wasn't that great in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. Nicolau, the output wasn't that great either for Kape. So I know those weren't 5-rounders. This is 5 rounds. He has more time to work with. But overall, I don't think the output's going to be that crazy here if Asu's shooting, at least based on what I know about Manel Kape. So while I do think he's the way better striker, I think Asu's a decent striker in his own right. Can he compete over 25 minutes just striking? Absolutely not. But if he's mixing it in with the wrestling, I think he can make this fight very close. And I do think Asu can win. And I'm going to pick him to win because I do think he's going to get it done. I just think he's one of those guys. He's gonna grind. He's gonna go for those takedowns. He's not bad on the feet at all. He like I said, I wouldn't say he can beat Kape in a kickboxing match, but I think he can strike with him in MMA. I do. And I think he can make it competitive on the feet. He's not as fast or powerful, but he's a solid striker in his own right, has a little bit of pop to his punch. And I do think the wrestling is very, very good. I think that Kape's takedown defense is good too. And I think Kape's get-ups are good. But I think that Asu's takedowns are good. I think his control is solid. Sometimes it's not the best. It really depends on the situation and the opponent. But I think overall his control is pretty solid. And I think that he will be able to keep taking Kape down. I do think he can chain wrestle. I'll get a little bit nervous once we hit round 4 and 5 because I haven't really seen Asu do that. But I don't think we've seen Kape do that either. Have we? Unless I'm completely blanking. Someone in the chat tell me, has Kape ever gone 5 rounds? Mikhaev was 3. Knocked out Kaya Sakura in 2, and I'm pretty sure Risen does 3-round championship bouts. Yeah, Kape's never been to 20. See, that's another thing. Like, I keep hearing, like, this is going to favor Kape for sure, like 5 rounds. And, like, I guess, maybe. But, like, why are we saying that? I get why I'm saying it. It's because he kind of starts slow sometimes and he builds, and it takes him a second to get there. But like at the same time, is he gonna be able to, like, if he doesn't have a lot of success early, if he's building up to those later rounds, is he gonna have enough left in the tank after all the grappling to really let it go then? Yeah, I like Asu here. I feel like this line's way too wide. I think Asu can take him down. I think Asu will be able to control him, at least to an extent. I think Asu will win minutes with the grappling, be relatively competitive on the feet as long as he mixes in takedowns too. If he's just striking, he'll get cooked. But if he's mixing in the takedowns, I think he could get in. And I think that he could do the 5 rounds. I'm not super worried about his cardio. I think he's got a solid gas tank in his own right. And I just feel like Kape lacks a lot of urgency sometimes. And I wouldn't really want to back him at -200, -230. So for me, I like Asu here. I can understand people taking the other side because if Kape can stuff every single takedown, yeah, he could cook here. He could. I can 100% see that. So I can see why people might back him. But I personally think he will be getting taken down. And I do think that Asu will have success with the grappling. So it's Asu Almabaev for me. Really hope he wins because even outside of my bet here, I really want that future to cash because that would be sick. But yeah, I think Asu's going to get it done. All right, let's catch up with the chat and then we'll jump out of here. I'll run through my picks one more time. I'll give you my 3 bets that I have so far, and then we'll get out of here. So Dravi saying Asu Army stand up. Let's go. If Asu wins this fight, about to be boring. I hope it's boring. That would be fantastic for me. I said that in one of the Discords I'm in earlier today. It very well might look very boring, and that would be really good for anybody like me who has Asu tickets. Champ saying he's hyped for this main event. Asu's very live. Kape's not the same guy whenever he fights a legit wrestler. I think Kape's just not the same guy fight to fight, period. He's a different person every single time, and he's so hard to trust. I think BetMGM lets you do it, Jiggy. I'm not really sure because they don't let us in New York, so. Jiggy thinks Asu takes it. Champ thinks Asu Champ end of year bet is better than ever. Yeah, like I'm so happy about that. I just need him to win, and I need Pantoja to win because a rematch would cook us. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. Danny's saying, barring some dumb from Kape, it's hard to see Asu having much success here. Couldn't get close to a takedown versus Mateus. Nicole's got some pretty good takedown defense. And I think I mean, he's not good enough to beat Kape on the feet over 25 minutes just striking. But if wrestling is mixed in, I think he can compete. Asu has 5 rounds. I thought he did. And Kape didn't. I know. Hopefully that goes in our favor this week. Let's see. The best is you can parlay. I bet 50 cents on Walker heel hook and punch him down. No way. That's kind of crazy. All right. And that's fair too. If we're using Nicolau as a litmus test, Kape did lose to him. And then he was supposed to fight him in I believe it was a title eliminator or close to one. And then that fight fell apart. And there went my Kape. I had Kape to be champ end of 2024. And that didn't go very well because of all the cancellations. But all right, guys, that's it. And that's UFC Vegas 103. Thank you guys for sticking with me for a good hour and a half, even when the camera fell through. I'll run through the picks one more time. I'll give you my bets, and then we're going to get out of here. So, going to pick Charles Johnson. Going to pick De La Rosa. Going to pick Silva, but Dogger Pass. I guess I'll pick Aldrich, but it's definitely Dogger Pass. Castaneda, but Dogger Pass. Chepe, but Dogger Pass. You know what? I'm just going to pick Patterson outright. Screw it. I'll pick Gomis, but it's Dogger Pass, and I did bet the dog. Pinto, Ribovics, but Dogger Pass, Brundage, and Asu for me. And then for my bets, I've only got 3 bets so far. Asu Almabaev plus 205 1 unit, Hyder Amil plus 175 1 unit, and Sam Patterson plus 250 for 1 unit. And then I'm eyeing a few underdogs like Nasrat. I'm eyeing maybe Ramos, maybe Andrade, and maybe Almeida. Those are the other 4 underdogs I kind of like. I like a lot of underdogs on this card, like a lot of them. I picked like 4 of them to win outright, but it feels like a really tricky card to me. All right. And Jiggy asking, are you betting on Johnson or Temirov? Probably not, unless something crazy happens with the line movement. I'll be looking to live bet Charles like everybody else too, though. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. What's the line on whether I shave? It should be minus $1 million because I'm going to shave. There's no way this stays on my face for long. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Catch you guys next time. Peace out.